Hey y'all, and welcome to my channel. So I saw this Free People cropped camo jacket come across my Instagram, and I really loved it, especially the crocheted sleeves, because I collect crocheted things that I find in estate sales and stuff. So I thought this would be cool to make. So let's get started. All right, so I actually found several different camo jackets to use, but I settled on this one mainly because it's pretty lightweight. It's very like a lightweight denim, so it's not like a denim jacket weight. It's lighter, and I think that'll work better. And also, I like the coloring on this one. Instead of the traditional, like it's more of green and brown, this one is like blues. It's green and blue, so I kind of like that difference, especially since I wear a lot of blue jeans. I thought this would be really good. So I've washed my jacket, and so I've got that ready. I'm gonna try it on, and to kind of decide where I want to cut it off, because it is going to be a cropped jacket, but I don't want to crop it too high or too low, and there's these bottom pockets here too. So I have a feeling I'm probably going to crop it like right above the pockets, but I'll try it on to make sure. And then I'm just going to cut the sleeves off. Normally I would spend the time and unpick it and everything like that. I think this time I'm just going to cut them off, and then I can save the sleeves and whatever part I don't use at the bottom. And I thought that would actually look really cool to maybe add it to a denim jacket, especially since there's some of the denim blue and the navy in here. I thought that would be really cool, so basically you're getting, two totally different jackets. Now for the sleeves, I know the inspiration photo had like crocheted sleeves, which I was able to find this at an estate sale. It's a handmade lace crochet runner, and it's 16 by 72 inches, and it came 2 in a bag. Now this isn't, it says it's handmade. It came from Dillard's. It was like $15 at Dillard's whenever this lady bought this. So it's not like something that, a grandmother set and crocheted. But I only need one of them. And so I did wash it, dried it, or halfway dried it to damp, and then laid it out flat to finish drying it. Originally I wanted to go with something that was a little bit more white, but I do kind of like the coloring. And the reason I think a table runner is going to work really well is because it's long enough, even folded in half, it's long enough to do 2 sleeves, and both of the ends of the sleeves I can use this pretty scallop. The only concern is if it's wide enough, because it's only 16 inches wide. So if you fold that in half, I mean, it's probably be okay for me, because I have pretty thin arms, but it's really going to depend on if it's, it needs to fit the sleeve. So that actually might be a little tricky, because folded in half, it looks like it may be a hair too small, but because it is crochet and it's got a little bit of give to it, I may be able to fit it in. Now, not everybody I know is going to have access to, finding table runners and stuff, but if you could find maybe 2 placemats, that would work. You could cut up a throw or something like that if you had it. But even then, depending on the width that you need and stuff, maybe just use some lace. You could use lace fabric. Maybe you can thrift a shirt that is, a long sleeve lace shirt, and use the sleeves from that to put on there. So, having a photo is inspiration, and then, you can kind of go from there with the resources that you have and what you can find, and kind of make it your own that way. And then for the flowers, Now I did look up the photo, the actual garment doesn't have anything on the back. The back is blank, and then it just had like a flower here and a flower here. So I may want to change that up a little bit, but I have these 3 colors. I found this at Joann when I was looking at something else, but it's like a really lightweight terry cloth, like a toweling material, but it's only toweling on like one side. And it's pretty lightweight. And so I thought maybe, you know, those 3 colors, adding some of that in. I could even do, because there's going to be extra of this, you know, because this is longer than a sleeve, even folded in half. So I could even take, you know, some of these medallions and cut those out and then attach those in the center of the flower as the centers. So again, I mean, you know, use the inspiration. If flowers aren't your thing, you know, or you don't want to spend the time cutting things out and adhering them, sewing on, use appliques. You know, there's plenty of appliques out there, either in stores or online. I know if you are close enough to a Hobby Lobby, they usually have pretty good appliques that are either floral or butterflies or mushrooms. Even lettering, you know, you could put lettering on there. If you have a Cricut or, you know, some kind of a cutting machine, you could essentially cut out shapes or something on there. So really, you know, you're only limited by your creativity. Whatever you want, whatever style you're going for, you know, do that. You know, if you want to put trim around the pockets, trim down the front, you know, that stuff's all up to you. So again, first thing I'm going to do, try it on to cut it off, find out that, and then detach the sleeves. And then once that's done, we'll go from there. Okay, so I went ahead, instead of just cutting the sleeves off, I unpicked it. It actually went really quickly. There was only like 2 seams, so I just unpicked it off the shirt, the jacket. I saved a piece of the thread so I could match it to a color that I have that's pretty close. That way when I do some sewing and stuff, the thread will pretty much match. So that's a little tip or trick that y'all can, if you save the thread or a piece of the thread when you unpick it, then you can kind of match it to the color you want to sew with. All right, so here is my table runner, and I've got it folded in half. Now I'm going to make this jacket 3/4 length sleeves instead of long sleeves. So I'm actually going to make it to about right there. You just have to be, for me, I guess, I think you have to be careful with 3/4 length sleeves so that they hit the right spot, because otherwise they can look like the sleeve shrunk if you get, there's an awkward spot and you got to make sure to get the spot. And because I'm using this edge here, I can't like hem it if I get it the wrong length. So I'm going to hold this up to my arm real quick and just double check. Okay, so yeah, it's about right there, which means that edge will go around at the bottom. I got it folded right on the underarm seam there. I'm just going to fold this kind of back up to where that is. My underarm seam is going to be, whoops, nope. See, I almost did it wrong. Flip that over. My underarm seam needs to be this one because I want the seam on my underarm. This needs to be the fold. So I've got my edges lined up there, my underarm there. Now, this is where it can get a little tricky because, as you can see, this is really too short. Or I guess too narrow, not necessarily too short, it's too narrow. So, but I'm gonna make it work. So if you had to, and if you had enough, which since I have 2 of these, And I would have enough that should I want to, I could actually insert a piece here. I could either make it like double wide, and then like gather it in, so I actually have a gathered sleeve. That's something I could do, or just take a panel out of the center and add it to here. And I actually, now that I, sometimes you got to talk things through. I actually may do that. Okay. Be right back. Okay. Executive decision. So my sleeve is actually only going to be about 16.5 inches long. So I have plenty to do one sleeve there, the other sleeve there, and then I'm left with this whole middle part, which happens to be longer than 16.5 inches long. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully cut this here and here. I'm going to take this center piece and I am going to add here and here. I'm going to cut it, so basically cut the border off the top and the bottom, and then cut it in half so it's a medallion and a half. And then I'm going to sew it to here and here to make it wider. That's what I'm going to do. Now, do be careful on these kind of crocheted things, whether they're done by machine or by hand. There actually is a right and a wrong to them. How do you describe it? I don't know. The wrong side looks messier than the right side, or the right side is poofier. Everything kind of goes over, or everything goes under on the wrong. I don't know. Sometimes you can see the little ends of the thread on the wrong side. So just keep that in mind when sewing things together. All right, so I'm actually going to cut. I'm going to cut a little farther. I think I said 16.5, so, better be on the safe side. Cut it like 17 there, 17 off there for my sleeves. Cut this, sew it up, and I think I'll sew it like to the outside so I can keep my scallops, and that should work great. Okay, so I went ahead and added a piece in the bottom, and then I added a little piece of the scallop from the side to the end of it so that it would kind of match. So now that's going to be my center at the bottom, center at the top, and that way that gives me, yay, that gives me more to work with. Another thing to consider too is the fact that, like on a lot of garments, the tops of the sleeves, or I guess the top of the sleeve pattern, yes, it's not even. The back is usually cut deeper than the front, and sometimes it doesn't matter really when you're sewing something, especially something that has some stretch to it. But you can also cut it single layer if you want. So I'm going to cut it. I've got basically my hem matched there. So that's all matching. That's matching. And then I'm just going to cut this side out first because it's the widest, I guess you could say. And then flip it over. And you can really see here how the back is cut deeper than the front. Again, probably doesn't matter all that much, but, I don't know. For the sake of fitting in there, I'm just going to tuck the top one over and then just cut through that one layer. Like that. And then I will just do the same exact thing to the other sleeve. I'm going to keep my scraps because I may need them to embellish the jacket. I'm going to keep the sleeve. I may end up putting that on a denim jacket. So now when it comes, so the back is going to be the deeper cut, which means this one will go like that. I'm going to leave the raw edge. So I'm going to give it a nice press to make sure, and I haven't cut off the bottom yet to crop it, but I did try it on, and I will be cutting it off like right above the pocket. That's a good place. But I'm going to put the sleeve in first. Now, see on this sleeve here, you can tell when you lay the side seam flat like that, you can tell how the armholes are different sizes in the front and the back. So same thing with this. So basically, I'm actually, since I want to leave the raw edge, I'm going to put a pin kind of where the top center is. Put a pin here where the top center is, which you'll notice it's not the shoulder seam. Little things that you pick up as you go. And then I'm actually going to just overlap, because I mean, you could definitely, like you would normally, sew right sides together and the seam would be on the inside and everything, top stitch, you know, whatever, kind of like that. But I'm just going to, where I can kind of still see the original stitching line, I'm just going to butt the end of my crochet right up against that line, and then pin it into place. I'm going to start by pinning the top center, and then I will pin the, depending on if you've added this piece, it's either going to be the center of the piece or just your side seam that you've sewn up. Do the same thing, match that with the side seam and pin that, and then just kind of even it out and pin it kind of like that all through, and then top stitch. So let me get it pinned on a little bit, and then I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so I have stitched it down, and I'm going to go back and do a second row of stitching, since kind of reflect some of the stitching on the jacket. You just want to make sure that when you're sewing it, you know, that you catch all the little edges and pieces in there. So like, yeah, that one's been caught. But yeah, I got that sewn in, so I'm going to do the same thing with the other sleeve. Then I'm going to go ahead and cut it off. Now to cut it off, you want to make sure that it's, you know, you do it straight. So you can fold it like this. So you got your fronts together, your side seams together, and then straight across the back. You'll notice it is curved at the bottom, so you're going to want to mimic that same curve here. So if you have it all nice and flat with your seams, then you can take a ruler or just freehand it and cut following the curve all the way across, and then both sides will be even. Now after I cut it, I am going to go back and sew about 1/2 inch away from the raw edge, just so that through the washings and everything, it doesn't unravel more than I want it to. And then I will keep this bottom piece with my sleeves, so I can maybe add it to another jacket at some other point. So let me do that, cut it, do the sleeve, and then we can get started with our decorations. All right, so I've got the sleeves sewn in, I've got it all cropped, so it's looking really good. Now comes time for my appliques accessories. Now I've got extra of the crocheted piece, so I could You know, I could cover a button, I could cut out some of the medallions and put them on. You know, some of the extras like this, I could, you know, sew a little bit onto a pocket if I wanted to. I mean, I like the way it looks. I could leave it with just, you know, just doing the crocheted and not adding any extra color to it. But I'm going to try with the color. Now, the beauty is I can cut out my floral flowers and place them on, decide I don't like them, and then save them for something else. So I've cut about a 6-inch square of each of my 3. These are that terry cloth. And then I'm going to be using the Heat and Bond, the light sewable, because I'm going to sew down around the edges. If you use the red package, that's the super hold, it gums up your needle. So I'm just going to follow the instructions as far as attaching this to my fabric. You want to attach it to the fabric before you draw your flower shape or whatever. So I'm going to adhere it to the back side of my fabric, the paper, and then I will draw my flower shape onto the back side. Keep in mind that if you're doing something like lettering, you want to do it in reverse because of the fact that you're doing it from the back, and then you'll iron it on and flip it. So let me get these ironed on and my flowers traced. All right, so I've got my Heat and Bond on the back of my fabric. I'm just going to trace or just kind of freehand some flowers. Again, you can use pre-made appliques. You can use something off of like a Cricut machine, silhouette, something like that. If you know somebody that has an embroidery machine, or you have an embroidery machine, you can, you know, you can do that. You can hand embroidery, use different pieces of trim, I mean, beads, whatever you want. So then I'm going to cut these out, and then basically you just peel the paper off the back and iron them on. If you don't want to sew them down afterwards, you can use the Ultra Heat and Bond, which is in the red package, and you can do that. But I'm just going to do like a little straight stitch or something around. You could do in the same color, you could do a different color, you know, pretty much what you want. Be creative with it. So I'm just going to get these cut out and then play around with how I want them on the jacket. Iron them on and then sew around the edges. I might do something kind of cool in the center maybe. I don't know. We'll see. All right, so I finished up, added a little piece of the lace to the center there, did my flowers. I just actually did a zigzag stitch around the edge and then just did some line stitching kind of in the center. And then I decided to go ahead and add a piece of lace to the back there. I just need to trim off the extras that are hanging over the sides. But I think it turned out great. Let's see it all styled. I really love the way this turned out. Probably more of like a spring fall jacket. It was super cold outside when I modeled it, but just love the way it turned out with the crocheted sleeves and everything like that. So I hope this gives y'all some really good ideas, and happy sewing.